validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Today is actually an interesting show today. Came across a little bit of information when I was talking to some of the other people around the country, and it turns out that while we already had it bad as dads out there trying to be good fathers to the kids, it turns out that there is an even bigger problem out there that has not been widely addressed. It has been seen on social media throughout the weeks and the months where Child Protective Services is going to different people's houses in different states and around the country, utilizing law enforcement and other such tactics to unlawfully seize people's children. And it's not just happening to fathers. Lots of qualified parents are negatively impacted by this epidemic, but the fathers have it extremely difficult already before all of this nonsense goes down. And today we're going to be discussing, are the rights of fathers in danger from the corruption of the Child Protective Services around the country, and what are we as well as our country going to do about this? Because this is something that seems to be getting extremely out of hand. It's actually turning into like bold moves instead of blatant, not blatant, but indirect disregards. We got Cody in here. First time night. Cody, it's been a while since I've seen you. We're going to drop a little bit of something for Cody before we get started. Cody's been a long follower of the show. He says, drop a pepper. Was that 3 stories high? Well, I don't know, bro. We're not going to drop a pepper from 3 stories high. That's probably going to cause an issue. But let's go ahead and get started from this. He's from Zephyr Hills. Zephyr Hill, all right. All right. Well, so you know what we talk about then. You know what we talking about. So today I'm pulling back the curtain on one of the most controversial and emotionally charged concerns of our legal system. So the Child Protective Services, this is going to be one of the things that a lot of people are going to be able to chime in today. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you come through. Mash those reaction buttons. Feel free to input your comments the same way Cody did. I see you guys on Twitch, Twitter, and we do not have y'all on TikTok as of yet, but we do have that coming soon. Special shout out to Bayside. Bayside's diving in here today as well. I know y'all was coming today hoping that y'all was going to get in touch with Sarah. Sarah had something going on with her kids, and she wasn't able to come to the show, but she's rescheduling it. And so you see it still on the channel as pending. So don't forget Sarah's coming. She's just not coming today. But today, since we're talking about family, I was like, this is a pretty decent topic to go ahead and cut through. So definitely good to see you. Let's go ahead and slide right on into the next one. That's just my way. Cody's got it. He's got lightning and thunder. That's what it's kind of like hellfire and brimstone over there in Florida right now. That's what I told her. I said she said she has some stuff going on with her kids, and I say, hey, I understand. Take care of your kids. You know, I just rescheduled the show. Let's send her some links. Let her dive back in with, because it would be more feasible for her to reschedule it to more to her convenience, where she could be on here longer than for her to dive in and then run back out. And you thought that there was going to be like a whole hour of her, and it's only going to be like a few minutes. So she go take her time. We're going to get her in here, but she's definitely said she's coming back to it. So we just got to give her some time to get back on it. But today's topic, this isn't just going to be a deep dive. It's a personal challenge to expose the hard truths about fathers' rights and the corruption that could be tearing families apart. So I want you guys to keep an open mind here. Y'all can if you click the link, you guys can approve the mic, approve the camera, and come in and say what you have to say in real time. For those of you who want to come in and speak on the topic, by all means. Try to be appropriate though. The rest of you, if you want to comment, you can comment in the comment section from YouTube or Twitch and Twitter X as well. So you will be seen on the screen as everybody else that you see on the screen here. So if you guys jumped in, by all means, put your 2 cents in. If you're experiencing the same, drop your experiences in the comment section. If there's any single fathers or any fathers from divorces or anybody that's in custody battles, whether it's custody battles against the state or discrepancies during separation where you and your partner are not going through cooperative measures, and you guys want to talk about it on the show, today is the day to do it. Definitely put your 2 cents in, because this raises awareness on the live podcast, and change can be met. There are some things that we can do. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you guys legal advice, but depending on what's going on, I can definitely point out a specific law or statute, depending on the circumstance, that might actually give you a direction to go. If you're going to be trying to do it yourself. He said, oh, hold on, hashtag Matthew McCaggery. Who's Matthew McCaggery? McConnery. Matthew McConnery. Not sure who that is. He's probably another dad that's going through it, and I just haven't had a chance to reach out and find out what's going on with it. But let's face it, if you're a dad, you've probably heard the stories or maybe even lived them, more and more fathers are coming forward saying they're being unfairly targeted, sidelined, and even villainized by a system that claims to protect children, but might actually be causing more harm than good. The sense of injustice is real, and the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about families being broken, children being separated from loving parents, and fathers fighting an uphill battle for their child's entire childhood just to be in their kids' lives. And I know that a lot of y'all can oh, he said famous actor, they're being abused. Yeah, the fathers are definitely being abused. This is a crazy scenario. You got to understand. Okay, so a lot of people believed back in the day that because this used to be the thing back in the day, that children were going through stuff they weren't supposed to go through, and the state would have to step in and come and collect the kids. These days, that's not the case. The person who doesn't want the child to be with the parent, because it doesn't have to be the father, it doesn't have to be the mother, it just could be somebody that knows the child that doesn't want the child to be with the person that the child is with, that could file false complaints, cause the state to step in, and then state agents will make it their mission to keep the family apart when that is not their job. Their job is to bring the family together. And there are situations where you have, after the bill was passed for the single fathers, the ones who were children were born out of wedlock, that was just July of 2023. And that was filed because the parental rights went directly to the mother, because the mother primarily had possession of the child. Then the father would be found thrown on child support and given no rights to the child. So laws were passed that gave fathers rights to establish their authority to make decisions for their children and be involved in their children's lives. And nothing has changed since that law has been passed. In fact, fathers still do not have, he said it's like a South Park episode. They took our jobs. Well, they took our kids. He said we need Irish beer companies, but we can't trust them. Well, I mean, Irish beers it ain't gonna stop them from taking our kids. So here's the thing. It's still been a hard fought battle, and there's a lot of fathers that can't afford lawyers. They got to try representing themselves, or give up on the fight, because if they don't know what to do and they don't know what to say, or if they're in a courtroom where the judges are not in their favor, and it's not supposed to be a favoritism scenario, but it turns into being a favoritism scenario. When you're the only man in the room, that's either in the swamp. Oh yeah, down south in Florida, yeah, it's definitely, if you're the only man in the room, it's harder to get a verdict in your favor, because it's very, very rarely do people like listening to men when men voice their injustices. But this is the issue. And it's becoming a long fall. You got fathers that are talking about how they've been doing this 5, 8 years, 10 years. At the average, in some places like Florida, and Florida is one of the biggest places that's this is becoming a problem. They have a statistical average that the custody cases are lasting for almost a decade, where laws indicate that the system is supposed to wrap this case up inside of 18 months, 2 years at the most. And it is crazy how they put in extra effort to keep the case open, and they put in extra effort to keep the father away from the child, so that the father ends up never having possession of the child, which is a violation of the law. He says, I'm Native American, blue coat Yankees. Well, they take your kids too. But what's really going on? For starters, there's a deep-rooted bias in the system. Many fathers feel they're automatically judged as less capable or even dangerous simply because they're men. This isn't just a feeling. Studies and advocacy reports show that fathers are often left out, unsupported, and forced to navigate a maze of bureaucracy with little help. The emotional toll is staggering. Imagine being painted as a threat to your own child, battling anxiety, depression, and the crushing fear of losing your family, all while draining your savings on legal fees and lost work. And it gets worse. The system seems stacked against dad from the very beginning. Policies and procedures, whether intentional or not, often make it nearly impossible for fathers to prove their innocence or get a fair hearing. And this can lead to heartbreaking outcomes. Fathers losing custody, being alienated from their children, and struggling to rebuild their lives. Cody says, label them kapoopies. Oh, well, I guess. I feel bad for you. Feel bad for the dads. All the dads that are watching the show today feel bad for the dads. You know, not too many moms are feeling bad for the dads, but they do got some people that are not dads that can feel remorse for a situation. Because just imagine if this was your situation and you're separated from your child without viable cause, no necessary reason. They just don't want you to have your kid, and then they don't give your kid back. They don't give you any opportunity to get your kid back, but you've done everything they ask you to do. So there's nothing left for you to do. You're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, waiting on a system to recognize your rights. Like, that's a horrible thing. But and you know, in this situation, you know, we're talking about parental rights, but in other situations where the law is not in the average person's favor, imagine being put in jail without committing a crime. There is no evidence because you didn't commit a crime, but you have to sit there until you can prove that you didn't commit a crime. Like, that's not fair. And the legal system is built on fairness. It's not fair because it does what I want it to do or because it wants you to do. It's fair because it's non-biased and it's balanced, where any rational person in that particular scenario or the average neutral jury trial would make the same decisions, where the outcome might not be in your favor all of the time, but at least it was a reasonable outcome. Sometimes you might not get everything you're looking for, but sometimes you in that same scenario, you get at least some of the stuff that you're entitled to, even if everything you wanted didn't happen. But there are situations where there isn't any fairness, and the you don't get anything that you're entitled to. You don't get anything that you want. You don't get anything that you need. Your family suffers. Your child suffers. And this leads to a next generation of damaged adults that grew up in the system, that grew up in broken homes, that grew up in domestic conflict unnecessarily, when the parents were supposed to share the child. And if there isn't multiple parents sharing the child, the one parent that is fighting for the child should have the child. Because if nobody else wants this kid, why are you stopping the one parent that wants this kid from having this kid? That makes no sense. With all of the children in orphanages and all of the children that have nobody fighting for them, to have at least one parent fighting for you your entire childhood, it makes no sense why the state would say, nope, you're the only person that we're not giving a kid to. That's ridiculous, because you created this child. Cody D said, some dads do the co-stroller. Well, any dad that's able to co-stroll needs to get a medal, while some women feel like it's not fair that if a woman does what she's supposed to do as a mother, they say that's what moms are supposed to do. But when a dad steps up and does the same things that mom do, they say that that's not fair. The dad is getting all of this praise. The dads get all of this praise for two reasons. One, he don't have to do that. He's supposed to do that. He don't have to do that. He's choosing to do that. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have to do that because there's some type of favoritism thing towards men. No, he doesn't have to do that because it's taken from him. They expect men to go off and break their backs and kill themselves to provide for the kid. They don't expect the man to be there with the kid. That's not his expectation. So when he makes it a point to be there with the kid, that's something to be admired, because we are all products of a generation where dads weren't there because they were either at work or in the military or in jail or whatever. They just weren't there. So now that you've got a generation of dads that's making it a point to be there, no matter how hard they work, they bring their ass home for their kids. No matter what kind of relationship they in, they bring their ass home for their kids. That's the type of thing. Like, you see a dad pushing a stroller, that's like dad of the year. You see a woman pushing a stroller, it's just a woman pushing a stroller. And women don't understand the difference in dynamic. Men have to fight hard to get to that moment where they're pushing that damn stroller. Men have to fight tooth and nail to get to that moment where they're walking their kid to the grocery store to go buy toys and stuff. They have to battle the odds to get to that moment where, they're the coach of their kid's little league game. Women don't have to fight for that. They have the kids from the time the kids are born until the time the women don't want to have the kids no more. So the fact that she's doing the stuff that she's doing because she's in possession of the child, that's way different than the fact that somebody fought to be there. A person who fought to be there and is now there getting whatever he fought for, that is way more deserving. Any person who fights to be in a position of responsibility deserves to get a medal for being in a responsible position. A person who's just handed responsibility and they just do the best they can because they don't know what else to do and they don't feel good about giving up that responsibility, that it's not to be awarded. Yeah, it's good that you kept going, but it's not the thing to say, hey, I'm gonna give you extra props because you tied your shoes today. But tell me that you fought your way into this situation. Yes. You went for it and you got it. He said, imagine being not having to do these things. And then he said, we're learning to I don't understand anything you got going on there, Cody. You lost me, Cody. But this isn't just about individual stories. It's about a national crisis because across Florida and the country, families and advocates are raising the alarms about what they see as systemic corruption. And there are lawsuits, media investigations, and calls for reform, with some families going so far as to call these removals child trafficking, the child abduction, kidnapping. The numbers back up the fears because Florida's foster care entry rates, sibling separations, and failure to place children with relatives are all red flags that the system isn't working as intended. Allegations that Child Protective Services or Florida Department of Children and Families are kidnapping children from qualified or fit parents and forcing unlawful adoptions are serious and have been subject of significant public concern and advocacy. However, under Florida law, CPS and DCF must follow strict statutory procedures before removing a child from parent and moving towards adoption. Families are calling this child trafficking while they're suing the parents, but there are indeed serious and ongoing allegations from the families and the advocates that the Florida's Department of Children and Families and its contractors, the foster homes that have the kids, have removed children from fit or qualified parents and bypassed biological relatives in favor of non-relative foster or adoptive placements. Multiple families have filed lawsuits accusing DCF of violating the constitutional rights, manipulating records, and engaging in customs and policies. That's pretty hard. And that is breaking apart families. Florida should buy plantains for their forces. I don't know, man. Some families and advocates have used strong language referring to the practices as the child trafficking, and it is, in my opinion, because you're unlawfully taking these children, you're violating state and federal laws in the presence of the court, and in most situations, you're not even seeing judges act rationally in these decisions. The children are allowed to be trafficked off by state agents with the backing of some judges. And I think that that's ridiculous. But while these parents are seeking legal remedies, they're not just kicking in doors and taking their kids back the same way that father ran over a police officer and took that police officer's life after the police in that same district took the life of his son. They're not taking matters into their own hands. Instead, they're taking legal remedies to try to get some form of justice. But the legal system is slow. Justice is slower than mail. And the fact is that it takes the entire childhood, and sometimes it takes even longer than that, to get back all of the stuff that you have missed out on in the child's life. And under Florida laws, DCF and CPS must follow the statutory procedures, but they're not doing it. They're definitely not doing it. While these children are being taken from the families are seeking the return of their children while they're following these lawsuits, and DCF is generally maintaining the position that they are acting in the best interest of the minor child. There are a lot of false claims that individuals do in order to maintain favoritism of the court, because if you say the right key words in the courtroom and then you get the judgment in your favor, then it's allegedly in the best interest of the minor child. It is not in the best interest of the minor child just because they say it is. It is only in the best interest of the minor child if it is proven fact based on records and reports. They don't have records and reports. They're just taking action, and they're taking action without the knowledge or consent of the parent, which makes absolutely no sense, because unless there's a legal documentation that proves that the parent's not fit based on poor decision making, abandonment, or neglect, the fact is that they're supposed to consult with the parent before they take action, and they're not consulting with the parent. They're taking action behind the parent's back. And ongoing litigations and media reports highlight persistent disputes over whether these standards are always met in practice when the DCF claims that they're making these allegations in the best interest of the children. So there is credible evidence and national concern that despite laws requiring diligent effort to keep families together and prioritize placement with relatives, Child Protective Services and the Florida Department of Children and Families do not allow fully compliant agents, and their policies do not align with the mandates of law, sometimes resulting in the alienation of the qualified parents. Florida's own annual performance reports acknowledge variations among circuits and sheriff's offices in how safe and unsafe determinations are made, and in the middle of in-home versus out-of-home placement. This means that some regions may be more likely to remove children or less likely to prioritize family reunification than others. Statistics paint a grim picture. According to recent studies, fathers are disproportionately represented in CPS cases, with many being unfairly accused and losing custody of their children, and others being completely ignored and never receiving the constitutional rights to be the parents that they were assigned to be by birth and by law. The numbers are staggering, and they point to a huge systemic issue that is currently not being addressed thoroughly. And it really needs to be addressed. Florida's entry rate into the foster care has historically been higher than the national average. And while it has declined, there is still significant variations across the state. The rate of removal per 100 children investigated differ widely by area, indicating inconsistencies in how removal decisions are made, and the percentage of siblings placed together in Florida has remained below the state's own standard, with only 64.5% of siblings placed together in 2021. And nationally, between 53% and 80% of siblings are separated in foster care due to placement shortages. Placement with relatives is a federal and state priority, but reports have and advocacy groups have also documented plenty of cases where relatives are overlooked or bypassed, sometimes without clear justification. National organizations, including Human Rights Watch, have criticized the child welfare system for removing children from families, often poor families, without exhausting all alternatives, and for failing to support families' preservation as required by law. These reports highlight systemic issues that can lead to unnecessary family separations and extreme parental alienations. And let's not ignore the broader picture. There is still this undeniable recognition that there is racial and social economic biases that are deeply embedded in the child welfare system. Black, brown, and low-income families are disproportionately targeted, facing greater scrutiny and harsher outcomes. Fathers, in particular, are often seen as disposable or dangerous, leading to more frequent removals and even criminal charges in cases where mothers would not face the same consequences. So while Florida law and federal guidelines require CPS and DCF to make diligent efforts to keep families together and prioritize relative placement, data and independent reviews indicate that these standards are not always met in practice. And there is plenty of documented variations in removal rates, placements with relatives, and sibling separation, as well as ongoing criticism from advocacy organizations and affected families, where these issues support the claim that in most cases, qualified parents are alienated and statutory requirements for family preservation are not fully upheld. So, what do you guys think about this scenario? What can we do? Because first, we need to shine a light on these injustices. And if you're a father who's been through CPS ringers, or if you know someone who have, your story matters. There's actually a lot of advocacy groups that you can see on YouTube and Facebook and other places that provide support for fathers who are trying to be parents to their children. We should be able to build a community where dads support each other and demand accountability from the system. And if you want to keep a conversation going, you got to make sure that you guys remember to like and subscribe on the channel and hit that notification bell, because together we're going to push for a child welfare system that definitely and truly remains fair, transparent, and focuses on keeping families together, because every child deserves a loving parent and every father deserves a fighting chance, but every child deserves their dad, hands down. It's easy to have a mom, but every child deserves a dad. And if they have a dad that's fighting to be in their lives, those children deserve their fathers. And it is clear that there's a growing concern among fathers about the perceived injustice within the Child Protective Services, from biased investigations to a lack of support. So fathers are facing an uphill battle when it comes to asserting their rights as parents. And it's time for us to take a closer look at the issues and work towards creating a more fair and equitable system for everyone involved. Bayside says, Xander, but doesn't it all depend on why the CPS was called in the first place? Excellent question. No, it does not. The fact of the matter is that if the child is not taken away from the family due to sexual abuse, that is the only scenario where reunification is not a factor. bad decisions are bad decisions, and every parent makes a bad decision. Not all decisions that are made bad by the parents are involving state agents. We have some situations where children will call 911 just for the sake of getting a whooping. We have scenarios where the girlfriend might call on the boyfriend just because she's mad at him. We have times where the ex-husband will call on the ex-wife because they're going through a bitter divorce. But it does not necessarily mean that the person that's being called on is doing something that drastic that they don't deserve to have their children. The fact is that when a complaint is made, then an investigation is supposed to occur. If the complaint is substantial enough where the child's safety is deemed to be at risk based on the complaint, and there is enough factual basis there from the complaint to put the child in a temporary foster home, that's what temporary foster placement is supposed to be for. You're supposed to be able to remove the child from the dangerous environment, investigate the dangerous environment, the same way you would take a victim and put him in witness protection until the situation has resolved itself. Once they have confirmed that the environment that the child was once in is safe to have the child, that is when they return the child back to that environment. Certain situations like anger management, parenting classes, some parents have habits, and you might have to go to AA or something like that, a drug abuse class or something like that. You're not a bad person, but you make bad decisions, and those bad decisions negatively impact your children. And it's widely across America where you see certain adults that they'll take their child into a liquor store and go buy themselves a pack of cigarettes and a case of beer and walk right back out the store. And the fact is that in some scenarios, people would say, oh, that's not good practice. But others say, well, you need a drink, but you got your kid with you. So it depends on the scenario. So if they're not breaking bones and hospitalizing the child with the kid's in ICU on their deathbed kind of situation, there's always room for improvement. And when there's room for improvement, that means that there is a situation where once you have shown rectification for past actions and you've shown stability, that you're able to get a second chance at finishing the job. Now, it's not just about the parents that have had the children taken from them, because they're supposed to have a bad time. You have to understand, one of the reasons why I'm talking about the fathers in today's show is because there are men that find out that they are fathers after the child is a certain number of years old. They want to be involved in a child's life. They have not been there. They want to be the father now that they know that they are a father. And this systemic issue is preventing them from ever starting to be the father that they know that they could be. And they're fighting their way into their child's life, where the child was never taken from them. No child has ever been taken from them. They've never been arrested for domestic violence. They don't have to take anger management classes. They don't have any drug problems, alcohol problems. They maintain stable jobs. They're the pinnacle of a prodigy in society. And for some reason, the state agents will look at them, their race, their economic status, and say no. But that's not what the law says, because poor people can have children too. If you were homeless and you wasn't able to take care of your kid, then that's one thing. But I mean, at the same time, you're still supposed to be entitled to visitation, not complete alienation. But if you have a place to live, you got a good job, you're able to take care of your kid, they should give you your kid. Especially if you're dealing with somebody who's been in the legal system, because again, the case is supposed to be wrapped up inside of 2 years. You got fathers that have been in the system, battling the system for 5 and 7 years. If dad hasn't missed a court date and dad hasn't missed a court ordered instruction in almost a decade, don't you think that it's about time to give dad his kid? Really, Bayside, hey, you're married, but tell me, in a situation, dude's been showing up consistent, never failed, never missed a beat, always on time, always early, and his rights are being violated like Ike Turner, like OJ Simpson. His rights are being violated like he didn't beat somebody half to death or something. His rights are being violated like he didn't R. Kelly one of his kids or something. His rights are being violated like he Pee Wee Herman on somebody. But he ain't do nothing. He go to work every day. He shows up for his kid, and his kid's never there. When does it become time for dads to be dads? And we're looking at multi-generational recognition that children are growing up without their fathers, and we've got at least 20 plus years of fathers that are fighting for their kids, that are fighting the entire childhood. The earlier they start to fight, the longer the fight lasts, because these fathers are fighting until they either run out of resources or the child is grown and the case is closed because they drug the case out because the child is grown. And it is unlawful. Actions need to be taken, and actions need to be taken to protect the rights of the families, because the goal is to make sure that the parents can cohabitate. It's the same. If you've got more than one kid, kids start fighting in the back of the house. You go break up the fight. You separate the kids. Do you never let the kids engage each other ever again in life? No. After a while, you counsel both of the kids. Once they didn't calm down, you counsel both of the kids, explain to them the values of family. You make sure that they understand that there's other ways to resolve conflict. Don't resort to violence. After you've provided them with enough counseling, then you bring them back to their sibling and watch them make up. And if they can exist in front of you without an issue, you start pulling away from that engagement, allow them to be the siblings that they're supposed to be to one another, and you go off and do whatever else that you got to do. That's exactly what CPS is supposed to be doing with the adults. So you go there and you get the kids when the child is recognized as not being in a safe position. But when the position is made safe again, you're supposed to be able to bring the child back. Now, in a situation where the child has been taken multiple times from the same parent, that's a completely different understanding. Because if the parent can't show stability, that is not a scenario where they're considered a fit parent. So when you ask me, well, it doesn't matter what they were taken for. No, because if a judge has decided that so many months ago, so many years ago, that you right now are fit to parent your child, from the moment it was decided that you are fit to parent your child until you get your child, is the quantity of injustice that everybody is fighting in the system. Because if I'm fit, if you're fit, if the other 200, 300 people that just popped in here in the last minute and a half are all fit, but our kids are in a system where somebody else could cause way worse harm to our children than what we ever would, why do we not have our kids? Why can we not protect our kids? That's the question. Why is it that because we're not talking about, oh, well, the unfit parents are complaining that they can't get their kids back. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about recognized in a court. There's a court order somewhere in existence that determines that parent way back when is fit to parent this child. So why don't they have the kid? If you could afford a car, you got the money to get it, why won't they sell it to you? If you qualify for the job, you're the only one here willing to do it, why won't they give you the job? No matter what scenario you put fitness into with the denial of accessibility after recognizing fitness, the question is, if I'm fit for this, this is needed to be done, why don't you want me to do it? Why don't you want me to do it? I understand less is more in some situations, and we're supposed to be able to argue that with less is more, we're supposed to be able to find ways to mitigate in a less dominant level. Bayside says that doesn't live in the same house. Well, you've got families where the father and mother don't live in the same house. And they don't have to live in the same house for the father to make decisions. That is called so there is a term for a parent that primarily has possession of the child, and that is a primary custodial parent. Then you have the non-primary custodial parent, which is the one that doesn't have the child as often as much. So you have the one that might have the child during the week. You might have the other one that only has a child on the weekend or maybe on holidays or something like that. And I didn't get the first part. You said read the first part. I didn't get the first part. If I would have got the first part, I would have read the first part. I promise you that. You definitely provide good advice. Put the good advice back, put it back up there, because you definitely provide you definitely provide good questions, and I want to make sure I answer your questions. But when it comes to parents that don't live in the home, you have the non-custodial parents that don't live in the home. They are entitled to have possession of their children. When there's more than one parent involved in a child's life, it's supposed to be a 50-50 scenario, which means, and it's not necessarily going to be 50-50. It's going to be somewhat like 60-40 or 55-35 or something like that, specifically because 5 days out of the week, the child is going to be in school, and that the child is going to be with the parent that is going to primarily have the child when the child is in school. Then on the weekends, the child is going to be with the parent that doesn't have to bring the child to school. So it's going to be like 5 days on, 3 days or 2 days off, something like that during the school year. But then you've got the 2.5 months of summertime that the child can primarily be with the parent that did not have the child during the school year. It's supposed to balance things out. Then you have, okay, good. Then you have he said, I'm answering it right now. Then you have the parent that weekends, not just weekends, you have holidays and any time outside of natural disasters when the child's not in school. So spring break, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the child would be with the other parent. Now, recognizing holidays, the parents would have to cohabitate. Well, some years the child would be with mom for the holidays, and some years the child would be with dad for the holidays. Or if one parent favors one holiday over another holiday, the child might be with mom for Thanksgiving and dad for Christmas, and then the next year it would be with mom for Christmas and dad for Thanksgiving, and they would share the child. They may have the birthday party at dad's house one year and the birthday party at mom's house the next year, but that is a co-parenting scenario. But it's still the situation that we have right now is that the parents aren't allowed to have any contact with the child at all. Alienation means that the parent is eliminated, erased from the child's life. 2022 and 2023, there was some grandparents that their children died, right? Their children had children. So the children's parents died in a car crash. The grandparents came to get the kids. The state wouldn't let them have the kids. Well, why? They adopted out the kids instead. But the grandparents were fit. They were young enough to be able to take care of the kids. The kids were old enough to function with the grandparents. They knew the grandparents. The grandparents were involved in the children's life, but the state forced the children into a foster home situation and adopted out the kids with the fit parents there fighting. It makes no sense. This is a situation where if a parent wants to be involved in a child's life, to the best of their ability, they should be allowed to be there. As long as you're not making corruptive decisions where you're damaging the child's safety, compromising the child's safety, damaging the child's development in a negative fashion, you should be taking the child and putting, because here's a thing. When we talked about, you've got the Black, brown, and low income individuals where they're losing their children off of like penny dropping on Jordan scenarios. But what about when we heard that story about the father who took his child hunting? Not a Black or brown father, not a low income father. Man took his child hunting, and somehow the boy got shot in the leg. Had to go to the hospital and take apart most of his leg and stitch it back together. Now, that man was allowed to continue fathering his child. But the average man who doesn't allow their kid to get shot by himself or by anybody else in the vicinity isn't allowed to parent their children. So when you asked me earlier, like, is there a scenario where it's not supposed to happen? Everybody makes mistakes. You've got parents that take their children out boating, fishing, swimming. Child drowns. They take them out of the water and resuscitate them. The child's alive now, but the child almost lost their life because the parent was reading a book or having a bad girl scenario, arguing over a spot on the beach, and the children were drowning in the water. Does that mean that the parent is not allowed to have access to the child for the rest of the child's childhood? No. So the legal system is supposed to be able to bring the children together. Mothers are supposed to force the fathers to be in the children's lives. The same way the fathers are forcing to be in the children's lives, the women are supposed to force the fathers to be in the children's lives. This means that even if the caseworker don't want him there, I don't care. The law say that he can come see his child. He can come see his child. You could come see him see his child, but he coming to see his child. You know, the only thing that stops the legal system from allowing a man from being a man that he's supposed to be is having a bitter woman over possession of the child, not wanting the father to have contact, because that gives a caseworker the authority to deny the father the ability to have possession of his child or contact with his child, which teaches the child to hate and fear the father because there's something wrong with the father that nobody wants him to come close to his kid. And children are going to do that instinctively because the bitterness that they're going to feel, the sadness that they're going to feel for not having access to their dad is going to be converted into hatred, because it's easier to project hatred than it is to project sadness. So they will first be angry at and hate their father because they can't have their father, and it's not their father's fault. And that bitterness is going to develop over the years, and the father is going to be blamed for that when it's not the father's fault. So it's not the child's fault that the father is going through this. It's not the father's fault that the child's going through this, but the father's suffering and the child suffering too. And the rest of us that are watching a situation happen, we're just shaking our heads like, oh, that sucks. Bayside said, stepson curses out the stepmom. But okay, so take that though. Take that. Stepson curses out the stepmom. Stepmom disciplines the stepson. Stepson calls mom and tells mom that stepmom is hitting on the son. Mom calls the police, sends a caseworker over to dad's house, making it seem like she pistol whipping him with an iron when he called a whooping for being disrespectful in the house. Now, police officer comes over there, and that's when shit hits the fan, because now the police officer is over here drawing guns on dad because the police is being told over the radio that a child's safety is being endangered. And now you got grown men with guns running over here to this house, ready to shoot anything that moves for the sake of thinking that the child is truthfully in danger, when the child's not in danger. The child is being rebellious. And that still puts a situation in society's hands where we have to determine when is it appropriate for a parent to parent and when is the actions of a parent inappropriate. Remember back in the day when adults used to whip their children behind in a Walmart? Now you got parents standing there helpless, watching their children have a temper tantrum in Walmart, and we talking about, why don't you do something about it? Because if I give him the ass whooping that he's supposed to have right now, then the people going to arrest me before I make it to the car, and I ain't even done buying the boy food yet. So we got to ask ourselves, what's going on? Bayside said, you're absolutely right. I actually met a young man today who didn't have a good relationship with him in his younger years, but was fortunate enough to live with him later. Now the stepmom wants her out the house. The stepmom wants the boy out of the house, and he has to contact the biological mom. Hot mess. Yeah. Well, okay. So these are some of the issues. So one of the reasons why when we're talking to the show about making sure that we got the kind of woman that's going to support our agenda, if you're a single father, you got to make sure that the woman that's walking up in here is not only going to respect your authority, but also respect and protect your child. It's hard for women to find a man when they have a child, but it is even harder for a man to find the right woman that is willing to step up and be the mother to the children, because the same way that a man is not going to be allowed to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing to the child because that ain't his child, is the same way that a woman is going to feel uncomfortable with taking action because that's not her child. And the difference between the two is that there's always a mom in the picture about 95% of the time. There's like 40% of the time there's a dad in the picture. 20% of the time the dad's fighting to be in the picture. The other 20% of the time, dad's on child support. It's like, fuck, I want to see where my money's going. But the rest of the dads that are missing in action, you know, this is just a single woman with a bunch of kids and no daddies. In those situations, a man only has to go up against the woman. But in a situation where the stepmom is in play, the stepmom has to go up against the biological mom and the biological dad. And that's a tough cookie for a woman to follow. So when a man already has a child and his child is not grown, it is harder for women to feel comfortable with dating a single father, because she already knows there's another woman in play. Ain't that many scenarios where there's a single man, child, no mom in sight. That doesn't happen very often. That's like finding Jordans on a discount and they be like legitimate, like limited edition J's. Like that don't happen too often. You don't see that like talking about it. But when it does happen, you're like, damn, something must have really happened. And usually what happens is that either mom abandoned the child and really didn't want to have anything to do with the child, or mom's dead. Because if it's not one of those scenarios, mom's there. Mom's fighting for the kid. Mom's fighting dad. Even if mom's not fighting for the kid, mom's fighting dad. And situations where if the kid calls mom and says, hey, mom, I got a problem, mom is coming and fighting dad anyway, because all she needed was an excuse to come and fight the dad. She's going to come and fight the dad. And we're in a society where women can be physically violent to men and nobody care, but a man cannot be physically violent to a woman in response, not even in self-defense, without being arrested for it. So dad's got to be careful with how he takes these punches, because he can't punch back, because if he punches back, he loses custody of his kid. But mom can beat dad up in the parking lot. Mom can beat dad up in dad's yard. And the only thing that dad can do is call the police and hope that the police don't come and arrest him, because if the police come and arrest him, he's going to lose his kid forever. Dad go to jail one time, dad lost his kid for the rest of the child's life. Mom can go to jail frequently and she still gets to come over and see the child after she get out of jail. The society is not balanced. It's not neutral. But this was one of those situations where I thought that it was a big concern that a lot of us really need to talk about, and we really need to raise awareness that, and we need to let the young bucks know, like, hey, you out there swinging it, you get this child pregnant, you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna do, because I mean, society is not gonna back you up like that. When we start backing each other up, saying nope, that's not supposed to happen, people who get jobs as case managers are gonna stop having that attitude like he don't need no child. It ain't your decision to decide whether or not he needs a child. It's your job to make sure he has the child. Then you document everything he does, everything he says, and everything that the child reacts to. And then you go back and you report to a judge or your supervisor or whatever and say, hey, this is what I saw. This is what I heard. This is what I think. And let them decide. If they decide that he can have his kid, here, I'll drop your kid off, break all of his stuff, come check on you every now and again and make sure y'all still doing good. But in these situations now, specifically because once they get their hands on your child, you're not getting your child back. And a lot of times they won't even tell you where your child is at. In these situations, it is imperative that if you don't have a legitimate court order, written court order in hand, that don't open the door. Don't open the door, because they will force their way into your house and snatch your kid. And if you call yourself trying to defend your house against them, they'll put you in jail, which will qualify your child to be adopted, because by the time your case is closed for the criminal actions that you're accused of for defending your house from a kidnapping, they will have given your child to somebody else. And 12 months is a statute of limitations. If a decision isn't made, it's final. So now you can't come and get your kid. Now you can't come get your kid, because according to the laws, they didn't give your child away unlawfully, because you tried to keep your child in your house because they had no legal grounds to come and get your child. Take, for example, we talked about this 5 or 6 months ago. This woman wanted her kid, not because she was supposed to have her kid. She just wanted her kid. She was mad at the father. So she called her friend. Her friend was married to the mayor of this city. That mayor went and got they sent the police department over there, and the police would not break into the house. And then the mayor sent the fire department over there. So the fire chief sent a bunch of firefighters over there. Firefighters broke into this house. Then after they broke into the house, they found out they had the wrong address. Now, luckily for the man, they weren't at that house. Luckily for the fire department, he didn't protect that house, because a lot of people could have got shot. A lot of people would have been in the hospital. Somebody would have went to jail. And the fact is that this woman solely wanted her, not because it was her legal right to have the child, not because he was doing anything to the child, but because she thought it was her authority to take the child from the father because she was pissed off at the father. That type of behavior is something that needs to be checked. Because if it's not your time, I got a written court order that says the kid's supposed to be in my possession right now. I'm going to bring you the kid when it's time for me to bring you the kid, or take legal action. Take legal action. File a claim. Talk to a judge. Get a judgment. But don't come to my house. They went to that man's house in the middle of the night too and bust the door down. Nah, fucked up part is they did not replace the door. The person's house they broke into, they did not do nothing for that man's safety. Because think about what the city that I forgot the name of the city, but it's on one of my shows, my older shows. That man should not feel safe in that city, because that means that the mayor can kick your door in whenever he feel like it, because all he got to do is just call the fire chief. So you're not safe. So every time you hear a fire engine, you're going to be freaking out, wondering, are they back? You know? Basically, I said evil and very irresponsible. It is extremely irresponsible. The thing that we have to understand is that not all women behave like this, and not all families have situations where there's just a bitter person in the family causing disruption for the rest of the family. But there are enough families that are dysfunctional due to chaotic and toxic people. And there are a lot of individuals in these cases where they are deliberately disrupting the situation, and they're not doing anything about it. And it is a situation that strongly needs to be addressed. And while it's not being addressed, raising awareness to it, letting everybody know. So if you know somebody who's going to be a caseworker, you need to sit them down and let them know, hey, now you got a responsibility now. You're supposed to bring the child back now. This like dog walking. You ain't supposed to borrow the dog, take the dog out, and then don't ever bring the dog back. You supposed to bring them back. Because I know that I talked to one woman who worked in the system, and she was giving me the story about how she was a firm believer that the company was about bringing the family together, but she was working for a company that has not brought any families together. She was actively working on a case where keeping the child away from the father was the thing. It was the common practice. And I asked the lady, I said, if you're the kind of person that keeps the family together, what are you doing to bring the family closer together? Because if the father don't have contact with the child, how is the family being brought closer together? Well, I'm just doing what I'm told. But if you're told to keep the family apart, are you really working for a company that's bringing the families together? She quit her job after that. Bayside said, doesn't CPS call both parents or households and interview them for lengthy periods of time? They're supposed to. So common practice is that they're supposed to open an investigation, the same way the police are supposed to open an investigation. And you see how well that shit goes. They're supposed to open an investigation, and they are supposed to determine, based on the facts and evidence and anything that can be proven in a court of law, whether or not the allegations are true, and if those allegations leads to the endangerment of the child. They're also supposed to do what is called a home study, which is investigating the house to make sure that the house is child friendly. And then also they're supposed to evaluate the financial status of both parents, and they're supposed to evaluate the capabilities of both parents, meaning that they're supposed to be able to observe the parents in their natural habitat parenting the child. Then they're supposed to determine if the parent is capable of dealing with the child, even if the child is being defiant. After that, if they can determine that the child is parentable by the parent, that's when the parent is deemed a fit parent. That means that there is a court order that is like, hey, this parent can parent the child, which also means that from that point going forward, the parent should have the child. Now, there are situations where DCF just goes and takes the kid based on the allegations, especially if the kid is home and the parent isn't home at the time. If the kid opens the door, that's why we were taught when we were kids, don't open the door for nobody. We used to get a safe word. If we didn't hear that safe word, don't open the door for nobody. We used to hear somebody knock on the door. We would peek through the curtain and we would just, everybody take off running to the opposite side of the house and go hide until the parents come back to the house. Don't open the door. Don't open the door. Because once the door is open, they're stronger than you. They're going to force that door open and then they're going to drag you out kicking and screaming. Now you got the door sitting wide open. You come home from the work and the kids is missing. Door sitting wide open like that movie Taken, and then you call the police. Oh, we had a report, blah, 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 blah. Call this number. Never get your child back after that. That's not what they're supposed to do. And we experienced that with law enforcement where there's no investigation. Law enforcement is told to do something and they do it. They don't investigate the situation to determine if they should take action. They just take action because they were told to take action. But that being told to take action isn't coming from a lawful basis. It's coming from an instruction from dispatch. It's coming from an instruction from their supervisor. But that's not in their individual capacity. They're supposed to go and determine, I don't need to be here for this. Based on what I'm looking at, this isn't where I'm supposed to be at. Basically, I said, I heard it's very difficult to get the kids back once they've been taken. And that's exactly what we talk about right now. That's what the whole show is about. Once the kids is gone, once the kids is no longer in your possession, they don't come back. Very, very rarely do they come back. You notice I told you out of every 100 kids, most of them are gone. More than 65% of them gone forever. That's equivalent to your car being ticketed and towed. Where the ticket is sitting where your car used to be at, you got to pay the fine. You can't find a tow yard. And after a certain period of time of not being able to find a tow yard, then it auctioned off your car somewhere, you ain't never getting your car back. Same scenario. Basically, I said safe words bring back memories. You know, grown folk, we don't have safe words no more, but we should. We should have certain words and phrases that we should be able to say so that we ain't got to sit there and scream help over the phone. We should be able to say something like, how's the new puppy doing? And you don't even have a dog. Everybody else on your side of the phone not gonna know what that's about. But as soon as you ask how the puppy's doing, that safe word, it's like, hell, come get me. You can have an added bonus to that safe word outside of saying, how's the puppy doing? Did the puppy like the new outfit? Indicating bring guns, ammo, and body armor. You should be throw up some safe words, huh? Neil Easton off that movie Taken, Raymond Reddington off a Blacklist. Like these movies don't happen because they not imagining this stuff. This is real facts on a fictional story. Based on real facts, a fictional story based on real facts. This means that they got some folks out there somewhere with their children being snatched up, and they got to go out there like Rambo and go get their kids back. But see, you see that stuff on a movie. That don't mean that you can go out there and go kick in somebody's door and go get your child. Not without a court order. The police can kick your door in without a court order, and you can sue them and get money for it, and they keep their job. But you can't kick nobody's door in without a court order. You can't kick nobody's door in with a court order. You got to stand there off to the side with the court order, let the police kick the door in. Because if not, if you do anything, the position gets flipped. And it's a crazy dynamic. It's a crazy dynamic. One of the things that I've noticed, especially being a minority, you cannot act in violence. You're already stereotyped as a violent individual. You're already stereotyped as a threat to society. You're already stereotyped as criminal nature. So if you act irrationally, they'll say, see, I told you so. So you have a heightened responsibility to maintain calmness in situations where you used to be pimp slapping folks like Bernie Mac. You have a heightened responsibility to communicate with individuals with calmness. Notice they tell you that yelling at folks is not going to get your point across. Lowering your tone and talking to them slow gets your point across. because yelling at folks, they're going to disregard you and call you hostile. But if you lower your tone and slow down your speech, they understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. You just got to be selective about your words. But the difference between have a nice day and enjoy the next 24 hours is a difference between a greeting and a threat. So you got to be careful about your word choice. Bayside said, I'm just curious, if your two kids are taken with a man, still have to pay child support? Yes, no, yes, and no. Okay, so hold on. Child support is being recognized as an illegal scenario because it's not going towards the support of the child. If you are put on child support, yes, you still have to pay for child support. If you were not put on child support, where there was not a judgment for child support to be made, then no, you don't have to pay child support. If your children are taken from you and they're put with a licensed foster home, that licensed foster home is getting paid per child to take care of your kid. So, unlike with mom, who can say, oh, I can't afford, I need relief, I need subsidy, I need this, I need that. And the judge say, fine, I award mom X number of dollars for you to support the children. That, yeah, you got to do. But if the case manager come and snatch your child up and go put your child into a foster home, you ain't got to pay shit. Because the state is paying for that. U.S. tax dollars is paying for that. And that's another reason why we need to be talking about this. Because if you're thinking about the thousands of children, the thousands upon thousands of children that are being taken away from qualified parents that would be paying for their children, put into a foster system where the foster system is now taking tax dollars to pay for these children. Why the fuck are we allowing them to take children from qualified parents where our tax dollars is going towards something that we don't need? That is supposed to be reserved for children in detrimental situations, not situations where the children could be back at the parents' place. And under the expectation in scenarios where the children are supposed to be shared, but they're not being shared, this is a situation where they're supposed to take drastic action to make sure that if the child doesn't have both parents in the child's life, that the child has the parent that's willing to cooperate in the child's life. Because if the parent that's willing to cooperate has possession of the child, it is more likely that the parent that's willing to cooperate will negotiate sharing the child. But there are some situations with alienation where alienation leads to court orders of no contact. And when that happens, they're not getting, they can't let nobody come and see the child because it says on this piece of paper that I can't let you talk to the child, because if you talk to the child, they're going to take the child from me. Bayside said, oh, now we're talking. I'm new. Somebody whose mother ran a foster home, a tough business, kids with serious issues emotionally. Yes. There are, now here's a scenario that, and this is another objection that people are having with this case. The state foster home system is a subcontracted situation where anybody, me, you, the child's cousin, uncle, auntie, great grandmama, can get certified by the state to be a foster home, have the qualified housing environment that is satisfactory for a home study, and then start taking in foster children. The issue that we have is, in case you didn't know, the issue that we have is that when the Department of Children and Family, CPS, decides to place children, they decide to leave the children with the person who's had the child the longest. Now they're dragging out these custody cases for 5, 7, 10 years. So now the state is pushing to keep the child in the foster home because the foster home has established a relationship with the child while keeping the child away from the biological parents. That's the complaint. Alienating the parent and then forcing an unlawful adoption, forcing permanency in a different location. Now, if the foster home doesn't want the child, then yeah, there's a higher probability that the child will go back to the father. But if the foster home wants the child, then, and the foster home already has the child, the state agents will put more effort into keeping the child with the foster home instead of working the child back to the father. Basically, I say, yeah, and they do it just for the money. Bro, there are so many foster homes out there getting, I'm going to tell y'all right now, because I looked into the numbers. They're getting almost $700 a kid for a normal kid. Then they're getting double for a kid with disability. So if you've got a house that can house 5 kids and you're getting $700 a kid, you can rack up like $3,500 worth of children a month. And if you own your own home, you got your decent sized piece of land, and the kids go outside and play in the woods, you ain't really got to work. Then if a couple of the kids are disabled, you're getting double, because they give you a check for possession of the child, and they give you a check for the medical condition of the child, and they give you full health insurance for the children. So you ain't got to pay for medical bills. You just got to pay for gas. Yeah, they making money off of them children. Then not everybody is out there doing it for the sake of the child. Not everybody's doing it because they want children to have a good place to be. A lot of people are doing it because they're getting a check. And it's fucked up, because some people will fight the system and keep the father or the mother or the grandmother or the auntie or whatever next of kin to the child away from the child so that they can collect the check until the child is grown. Then once the child is grown, they attitude change. They kick the child out, disown the child. Now the child looking for the family that the child never had a chance to grow up with, because the child was forcefully separated from the parent, forced to hate the parent. And now that the child is grown, now the child got nobody to lean on. And the parent that been chasing the child for the child's entire childhood couldn't do nothing but walk away, because once the child is grown, the parent has no legal right to go after the child. Now it's harassment. Now you can get restraining orders. Now there's all kinds of stuff. Now the child's got, once a child becomes of legal age, the child got to come look for you. And hopefully the child know where to look, because if the child don't know where to look, that 10, 20, 30 years could pass. The child will be middle-aged, you will be old and retired. And if they find you, that you might be able to spend the last 5 or 10 years of your adult life with the child, where the child regrets all the time that he or she lost not having their parent with them. But the only thing that that child can say for those parents that fought the entire childhood is that the mom or the dad or the auntie or the grandma never gave up. Never gave up. That's all they can say, because hands down, believe it or not, some people will try to discourage you from fighting that fight and say, why don't you just give up? Start a whole new family. Look, bro, first time you stop trying, the kids are going to blame you. Why did you give up on me? Why didn't you keep fighting? That hatred is going to be a whole lot more deep in the child than you never giving up. There's still going to be hatred, because they're going to feel like you fucked up somewhere. That's why you never had them to begin with. And they're going to be told by people that you fucked up somewhere. That's why you don't have them to begin with. And that, just like the question base I asked earlier, is like, didn't they do something to lose their kid? Not all the time. No, not all the time. Does people have to do something to lose their kid? But once there's a kid there that you're supposed to take care of, and you want to take care of that kid, you want to raise that child, and somebody else that's got more control over your situation than you do doesn't want you to do what you have the constitutional right to do, that is very stressful. That is a massive quantity of emotional stress. That is a massive quantity of psychological trauma that you have to undergo. And it's generations that you're dealing with this. And you got to think about the fact that the reason why the low income individuals, the Black and brown people, are suffering from this is because they can't afford enough lawyers to get their kids. You get a court appointed attorney. Court appointed attorney going to go through the motions. Court appointed attorney is not going to fight for your rights. The court appointed attorney might keep you from being put on child support. They might keep you from losing your case. but they're not going to put in the effort to help you win it. And that's where the suffering begins. Because if they're not going to put in the effort to help you win it, you can't have a court-appointed attorney and pay for the attorney at the same time. So if you have a fluctuating income, you just got to live with the court-appointed attorney. Because as soon as you start putting money down on your attorney, you're either going to pay the bill or you're not. And if you end up not being able to afford to pay the bill, you're cashing out on all your stocks and bonds, you're selling all your trusts, you're selling all your personal properties, but you still have to maintain enough stuff to be able to show the state whenever they come to your house that you can support this child. Because they're only supposed to do one home study to confirm your residence, but they can always decide to come back and do another home study just to spite. And if in the event they ever find an excuse, that closes the case outside of your favor. So you've got to fight, but you got to fight in a fashion where the spotlight's not on what you did wrong or what you didn't do. The spotlight's on, if I've done everything you asked me to do, why do I not have what the law says that I'm entitled to have? And this is going to be one of the reasons why Skynet's going to take over, because human beings are going to say that if you take the human element out of the legal system, you will not have injustices like this. But when you take the human element out of these situations, there isn't mercy, because mercy only comes from individuals that have an emotional attachment or guilt that can compromise their ability to be harsh. When there's no emotional attachment there, it's just cutthroat, like according to applicable law, the past, this is the way it is, and this is the way it should be. It's an extremely long process. It's an extremely long process. It is supposed to be done in 18 months, but judges get paid for these cases staying open. Caseworkers get paid for these cases staying open. Lawyers get paid for these cases staying open. So it becomes a profit system for everybody except the parents that are paying out. So the foster homes, the longer the case stays open, the more money the foster home gets. The longer the case stays open, the more all the legal team gets, clerks and bailiffs and everything like that. So forcing this case to a proper close is not something that anybody is interested in. Because if the state agents have the child where they want the child to be, they're not interested in putting in effort to put the child somewhere else. And that's harsh. That's harsh. And that's something that needs to be addressed. That's something that needs to heavily be addressed, because why are we expelling so many tax dollars for a system that is forcing families to not be together? And ladies, y'all got a huge part to play in this. I ain't picking on y'all. I'm being serious. Y'all got a huge part to play in this. Because if the mother of the child negotiates with the father, the state can't take the kid. Females are more often than not getting humanities jobs, such as social workers, nurses, teachers. And if y'all recognize that this shit is going wrong and y'all get into these employment positions and y'all start being more proactive of making sure that both parents have enough access to the child, read the case file, read the court orders, talk to both parents, have a whole conversation with those parents, and then put forth effort. But just like a public defender, case managers are dumped. Bunch of kids, bunch of cases. They can't check on every kid every day. And then they got to go to court, and they got to sit in court all day. So, ladies, y'all got a part to play in this as well. Y'all got the men have to be more responsible about making sure that they don't get caught up in this situation to begin with. And then the men have to fight that hard fight. Think about the parents where the husband and the wife stayed together, but they lost a kid. They both got to put in extra effort to fight to get that kid back. And a lot of times this ends up boiling down to the system aging out. And then the child goes back to the family after the child is grown. And other times, these are situations where you might catch the state slipping, file the right motion, and then sue the state. And then when you sue the state, legal actions against the state push the state in a compromising position. We have had upward of $10 million of tax dollars in a settlement. They have gone as high as $50 million in a settlement. Legal claims can go as high as $120 million of taxpayer money in a settlement for taking a child away from a parent. Why is all our money going to somebody who is being mistreated by society, by us, the people that we allow to run our society? That's where the checks and balances fall apart. You think it's a lot of money for Donald Trump to give $1,000 to every immigrant being shipped out of this country? Think about the $1 million lawsuits, the multi-million-dollar lawsuits per person, 100+ kids per county, per state, per what? That's a lot of money. And then we wonder why we're in a situation where, you know, we have those red pill and blue pill and black pill podcasts where like people are just sitting there bitter, bitching about the other half. Look, now we're allowing the society to present itself in a unsatisfactory fashion, and only we step in the situation where it directly negatively impacts us. That's when we step in. But until that happens, a lot of the time we look in the news like, well, that's fucked up. I'm glad it didn't happen to me. But if you got a flatbed truck and your kids like riding in the back and you hit a pothole and one of your kids fly out the back of the truck, state gonna come take your kids. But then you're in a situation with all the other folks. It was an accident. You wasn't expecting that to happen. Otherwise, beyond that one bump that you did not expect to hit in the road, you wasn't speeding, you wasn't swerving, you wasn't drunk driving, but outside of that one bump that you hit in the road, you're otherwise a good parent. They will take your child. So y'all got to be careful. Bayside said, oh, that's a trip. I'm at a lady who worked for the city Head Start. Her stories were heartbreaking. These kids coming to school dependent on them for their breakfast. Now, that's going to be the start. So here's the thing. Sometimes Child Protective Services gets involved because a child gets hurt too many times. Now, if you're like me and you're one of those kids that was adventurous, you fall off stuff, you get hurt. You get hurt too many times. Child abuse is the claim. The adult don't got to do the child nothing. The child could just be doing stuff they ain't got no business doing. Now, they come in the house, the adult isn't home, when the child is dead, they snatch the child up, the child is gone. That's one situation. The other situation, the one that you're talking about right now, some of the poor families, all they needed was a raise on their job. All they needed was more hours on their job. They got enough money to pay the bills, but they don't got enough money to feed all the mouths in the house. State took the kid so that the kid could make sure that they get regular meals. Legitimate reason to come and get the kid. Parent gets a better job. Parent gets a raise. Parent can show that they can afford to take care of the child now. State won't get the child back. It wasn't a bad parent. They just was broke. You know, now I think about these situations where the women are leaving the men and taking the children. Then they're putting the men on child support. Now, child support is taking 30% of the man's income. The man can't afford to pay for a 2-3 bedroom house so that his kid can have a place to stay at his house because he's giving the mom 30% of his income. That puts him in a position where now he don't even qualify to bring his kid back home because he's giving somebody else money to rent his child. These are scenarios that are tough. It's terrible. Basically, I said, my point is sometimes just being poor, CPS will take your kids. Exactly that. They will take your kids because you're poor. And that's another reason why there are a lot of in countries around the world, like we were just talking about South Korea yesterday, and the age gap between the older generation and the younger generation is almost 45 years because women are postponing childbirth until their middle ages because they want to be financially stable. Here in America, women don't even want to ride in a car with a man that look broke. The man's got to be financially stable. A lot of women are postponing childbirth until they get financially stable, but they're not preserving their eggs so that they can they're not preserving those eggs so that when they do get older and they're financially stable, that those eggs can be put into a surrogate where the child can still be born. You know, that they're trying to do the natural birth thing, but you can't at 38 years old. Your situation is not going to be in your favor, but that's what they're doing. And yeah, so if your money's not right, and that's another reason why here on the show, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're talking about ways to make money, ways to invest money. I'm actually going to be talking about an investment strategy next Tuesday, since I just started going over all of the payouts for all of the cash stocks. I'm going to be talking about a way where you can look at certain ex-dividend dates, look at certain payout dates, take the money from one and put towards another. That way you can move your money from one place to another and improve your profit margins, because that's the way to take care of your situation. You know, you can't just depend on the hope that everything's going to work itself out. You've got to make money for you so that you're not in these types of situations where people are taking your kids from you just because you don't got enough money to feed everybody in the house. But think about the fact that, though, if you didn't have enough money to pay for everybody in the house, you're supposed to be able to get the food stamps and the WIC and all this other stuff to help you with the kids. Because if you have less than $30,000 a month worth of $30,000 a year worth of income, you're supposed to be part of the poverty community. So if you're making less than $30,000 a year and your baby mama's making less than $30,000 a year, y'all are making $60,000 a year together, but y'all are each individually claiming single family households. Each one of y'all should be entitled to some type of food stamp distribution. And if there is a child in play, y'all should be able to switch that situation up, because the system's supposed to give both of y'all a little something. And basically I said exactly how they don't give them back. They don't give them back. They adopt them out. They adopt them out. If I ever adopted kids in my life, the first question I asked them kids is, do you know who your original parents are and when's the last time you seen them? It would be my mission. If I was that man to adopt some children, it would be my mission. If I found out that them children had alive parents, it would be my mission to go find their mama and daddy and see if their mama and daddy want to be involved. I ain't asking for some money. I'm just saying, hey, can you stop by? Will you let us stop by? If you far away, can I bring them to you so that you can see what your kids look like? Touch base. And you ain't interested, that's one thing. But I mean, if you really want to be involved, you know, that's one of those situations where and they do like sealed records and stuff like that, but you can with enough capital, you can find a way to find any existing parents. Now, if they're orphans, if the parents are in prison for a long stint or dead or something like that, then you're not going to have much to find. But if it was a situation where the parents were just poor and the kids were taken away from the parent, I forgot the name of that one movie where the girl, she had lost a child because she was an addict. The child got adopted. She let the child stay where the child was, but the woman who adopted the child allowed her to come and be involved in the child's life. So the child ended up with the mom and the foster mom, and they co-parented the child. And technically that should be the way it should be, is that you if the parent deems that, hey, I don't have an environment for my kid, but I'm still supposed to be here, then you still supposed to be able to be there. You still supposed to be able to be there some kind of way, responsibly. And Bayside said, is it true in Asia they giving people money to have kids? Okay, so let me talk to you about these folks. I was talking about this yesterday. I did a whole show. I was talking about this. You should have been here yesterday. I was talking about the whole show yesterday. So and I broke down the prices. So they're not giving you that video that woman that I know you're talking about, that one woman that swore to God that, you know, South Korea is offering like 72,000 US dollars for you to go out there and drop children. That's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. There was one company that said if you work for that company and you had kids, that they would give you a pay increase that amounted to 72,000 that year, and that included your maternity leave, because in Asia, unlike America, both mom and dad can take 12 months off paid leave to take care of the child together. So due to the population control, some of the businesses out there were offering 72,000. Now, most areas in Asia do have an incentive where the local government will pay you a subsidy. They'll pay for the child birth, where ultimately you might end up only paying $500 for the child's birth if you got to pay for anything. If it's a regular childbirth, it ain't gonna cost that much, as long as the child is native born to their country. Then they said they would offer up if the child is not an expensive child, if you're doing like regular store-bought brands and stuff to that effect, the cost of childcare is about $500 to $1,000 a month for the childcare. That's the cost, and the government will give you $500 to give you about 50% for the first year. And then they do a steady decline from 50% to 47% to 30%. So as the child's age increases, the cost of money that they're going to give you is not going to increase, but the cost to take care of the kid will increase. So the percentage, the amount of money that they're giving you will be the same, like $500 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever. It'll be the same per child. But the amount of money you got to spend for that child might be more than that. So it might go from costing you $500 a month, where it's a 100% subsidy, to costing you $1,000 a month, where it becomes a 50% subsidy, to costing you $2,000 a month, where it becomes a 25% subsidy. But they will keep doing that until the child is 18 years old. So they'll give you something per kid. And it is not based on economic standing. So they're not going to give it to you just because you're poor. They're going to give it to you because the child is a native born, and they're encouraging child birth. So yeah, if you want kids and you swing around there by Asia and you drop you some children, they'll cut you a check, and they'll keep cutting you checks too till the child is 18. Bayside said Mongolia giving couples money to have 2 to 3 kids. Yeah, I've covered a couple of countries where if you get married before the age of 30, they'll allow you to take out a bunch of loans and do loan forgiveness where you don't even got to pay the loans back. Buy a house and start up businesses and get cars and have kids. That's one of the requirements, is to get married and drop almost 3 kids before 35, and they let you keep all the money that you borrow. So there's a lot of incentives in a lot of other countries. America doesn't have any incentives because we're stealing all the kids from the qualified parents and adopting them out. So between them and all the women shaving their head, because they don't have a plan B after they slept with 13 guys in the club the night before, between them two dynamics, like, we don't really have a problem with. But Asia is not used to not having a lot of people. Asia has 4 billion people in their country. We have 365,000. Half of their population is going to die from old age in the same generation. And that's going to mean that their population is going to diminish. Over here, we got we got enough people in this area, and we don't like to share space. They talk about studio apartments. That's the whole house. We don't do studio apartments for a family of 3. You have a living room attached to a kitchen the living room is the bedroom, and then you got to go down the street to the bathroom. You got to go down the street to the community shower. We don't got that kind of stuff here in America. Like talking about it, everybody got to have their own bedroom. Everybody got to have their own bathroom attached to their own bedroom. Everybody eat in their own bedroom, even though they got a living room and a dining room and a kitchen that don't get used for nothing. I'm trying to told y'all, things is different. Basically, I said that would be a noble thing to do, because all children just want to know their biological parents, regardless. It's a lifelong journey for them. And that's one of the biggest reasons why this is a huge problem with state agents separating the children from the parents. Because the state agents are not only separating the children from the parents, they're discouraging the children from wanting to get to know the parents. Then the children are missing something in their lives, and they grow up without that void being filled, or they're forced to fill that void with a stranger. They don't know who their dads are. They don't know who their moms are. And in some situations, they could care less because they don't have a way of getting that information. Then when they get older and they're making bad decisions, and you're wondering why they're making these bad decisions, it's because they don't have a solid foundation. And they don't have that solid foundation because the state is not allowing that solid foundation to be built. This is an issue that has to be addressed, but it just hasn't been as of yet. Basically, I said, wow, 12. Yeah. 12 is a lot. He said, months leave. Awesome. We get 2 weeks as you're talking about 12 months. 12 months leave. Awesome. We get 2 weeks as a man. Shit. Where you get 2 weeks off as a man? You get they'll give you 4 days in a row. Send your behind back to work. They give you 2 weeks unpaid leave as a man. They ain't talking about giving you no paid time off. When I told you about those guys giving you 12 months paid time off, and that's maternity leave. That's not your PTO time that you racked up. That's not your vacation time that you racked up. That's not your sick days and stuff. That 2 weeks that you talking about, that's all your sick days, all your vacation days, all of your PTO days, all put together to 2 weeks worth of time off. And then after that, they'll let you stay home. You're just not getting paid for it. But in Asia, yeah, they will pay you for a whole year to stay your ass at home. Both mom and dad at the same time. So bet mom and dad work at the same company. The company short 2 employees for a whole year because y'all can stay at home and take care of the kids. Then if you need more time, you just got to petition your job if you need more time to get that babysitter and stuff. So your child is home with you at least until they're 1.5 years old. Then if need be, you got to get a babysitter. Damn. You know how much easier it is to formulate a bond with your children? If we had that, not one dang blasted company in America gonna put that kind of capital towards. Look, some of these women would probably take that up for initiative. They'll go get them a job, drop a baby every year. Take maternity leave. Just take the flat rate from the company. Because if you getting 40 hours a week to stay at home because that's your maternity check, well, you go get you a job in Asia. Get your wife a job in Asia and drop you a kid every 12 months, every 5th. So you show up for work two months out the year, and then you take 12 more months off every year, every other year. Shoot, you be celebrating. I'm back, y'all, and be like, I'm gone. I'm gone. About a 3rd or 4th kid, they're gonna be like, he ain't gonna be here long. He ain't gonna be here long. His wife about to have another one. So I think you just gotta work during the pregnancy, and then after that, Then as soon as the baby drop, you gone again. But yeah, I thought that today's topic was a interesting one for us to touch base on. And I appreciate you guys coming to tonight's show, because we don't talk about this often enough. And I think I've raised this. This will be probably the fourth time on the show in the past 15 months that we've actually talked about the deepness of it. But today we're talking about exactly like it's not just the fathers that are negatively impacted, the mothers, husband and wife situation, aunts, uncles, grandmas, they're all having the same issue, that once the children are taken out of their possession, there isn't a fair chance of getting the children back. If you have a judge with a heart, and the judge recognizes that you're unlawfully being separated from your child, and that they must do better, at the end of the day, it is recognized that the judge has to do something. Now, if you're in a situation where the judge ain't doing what he or she is supposed to do, keep in mind that even though 33% of the legal system are female judges, you're going to understand that more often than not, you're going to find a female judge in a family court case. But note that if you're in a situation where the judges are recognized as being biased, unfair, and non-partial to the matters, where they're showing favoritism to one side of the room, you have the right to remove 2 judges from your legal proceeding. What you have to do, and this is not legal advice, this is what you need to look into. You have to look into the laws in your city and state. You have to motion to what's it called? You request to the judge a verbal request in the court. That's one way to do it. You ask the judge to recuse themselves. That's the phrase. You want them to recuse themselves due to the lack of impartiality, lack of fairness, and biased behavior, recognizing that they have allowed favoritism during the process. They have not equally protected your rights. You recognize that scenario. Then you have to file a motion. That motion requires you to specifically request for a change of placement of the case. You're requesting for removal of counsel of the judge, not your counsel, not your lawyer, the judge over the case. You have to file appeals that will require you to take it to a higher tribunal. You can file civil actions against judges, but most states don't want to hear the civil action against the judge when the civil action is requesting monetary gains, because they try to give the judges qualified immunity across the board to make decisions without fear of persecution. But if they're deliberately making decisions that are violating your constitutional rights with full knowledge and no justification, then they are no longer qualified for immunity. So you first start off by replacing the judge to prevent from having to take legal action against the judge in a civil court. And by the judge stepping down and you having another judge, then you have to refile all of your claims with the new judge. Just because you put stuff on a docket, once you remove the judge, all the claims that you filed before the last judge, blank. You have to refile all of your claims from the last judge that did not get a response from the last judge. You have to refile those with the new judge. And any judgments that were made by the last judge, you have to file an appeal with the appellate court so that they can overturn the last judge's decision. Throughout this whole process, your rights are being violated. Nobody's going to give you your kids. You're not going to be able to see them. You're not going to be able to make decisions, but you have to keep fighting that good fight. Don't get mad. Don't Suge Knight nobody in the parking lot. Don't make threats. Don't raise your voice. Don't argue. Hostilities are going to be there, but you have to maintain composure, because if you don't, the first time you make a mistake and they document your mistake, you're already on thin ice. You automatically lose. So be careful with what you do. Now, Bayside said, after I watch those coffin hotels in Hong Kong, I was like, it's too dense for me there. Bro, they've got buildings. They did like stacking them up, buildings multi-stories high. It's crazy over there. And then they worship the dead, so they got to go back and pay tribute. They got it on at least the birth, if not the death of the fallen. They have a special meal for the dead. They sit there and they leave it all there for a little bit, and then they go over there and they go eat. And it's like ceremonially now. And I just think to myself, I'm like, look, now you're supposed to honor the living and respect the dead and pay homage to the life that they once had. But I have not had a situation where I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have dinner with dead relatives every year for the rest of my life. I might tip a bottle for you. This is for my homies for the first couple years of the situation, but not for the rest of my life. You talking about so that depending on how big your family is, you're having a meal with the dead once a month. Like that's every other week. It's like God forbid you lose a bunch of them at the same time. You sitting over here trying to you sitting over here trying to have a whole group. And it's like, look, we just gonna have to look. All the dead people got to come on Halloween now. Y'all, that's it. That's it. Dang it. Halloween and Christmas and if you come in New Year's Eve, that's it. Y'all stop coming after that. Y'all camp out now. Shoot. You got a whole season to wear my nerves between October and January. Come the 2nd, y'all bet the cross on. Shoot, you got your forever after to deal with. I still got my here and now. I ain't caught up to you yet. You don't need to hang around me. Go find yourself something to do. Shoot. Like our parents used to tell us when we was kids, take your ass outside, go find yourself something to do. Shoot. And bring your ass back before the street lights come on. First thing in the morning, soon as the chicken crow, get out. You better not be in here by 10 o'clock. You better be back by 8. We need some space. Which makes you wonder, because they say that over there that a lot of places are supposed to have bad mojo and stuff, but they don't have hauntings in Hong Kong. You got they got 40 billion people, and like you said, they got coffin hotels where they got 2-3 story buildings full of dead bodies, but they don't got no hauntings. But you swing your ass around there by Louisiana and all you got is haunted. Every other house got something floating around, doors opening and closing with nobody touching them. And wind blows, some stuff then broke, and levitations, and yeah. Basically, I said I think they have a problem with porn and perversion. No, I don't think they have a problem with it. I don't think they have a problem with it. Well, think about that. In their society, they don't touch each other at all. We do. We got to be hands-on. We physical. They not all of the physical contact and stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they could probably buy something out of a vending machine that we would not be able to buy out of a vending machine. And I'm more than sure that with all of the geisha girls that's out there, that there's a whole lot more adult freelance working out there than what we've got out here. But I just don't believe that. No. You good. You saying that they gotta. I don't think they have a problem with it. I'm not saying they ain't got a lot of stuff going on over there. I'm just saying that they're not complaining about it. Like you see how Ukraine said, oh, we're just gonna legalize it so that we can get paid from it. It's still an issue. It's just they ain't complaining about it no more because like they're able to cover their GDP with it. America complaining about it because we ain't started taxing folks with it yet. But let them start paying 50% more taxes to cover the GDP. Donald Trump say, hey, I'm gonna let y'all stay afloat if y'all just cut us a check. Extra 30%. OnlyFans will be writing big $1 billion checks. But that's not the thing though. So in their country, even though they got a large systemic out there of births, they still have a policy in their country where I think that policy is starting to be waived now, where they're not charging people. You are only allowed to have one child. It's a patriarchal society. You had to pay for the second, third, and the fourth. They hope that the one child is a boy because of the patriarchal society, because if you don't have a boy, then your estate goes to the child's husband, because it's a patriarchal society. So they would pay for the second and third child so that the second or third child be the head of household as a boy, so that he can inherit the family legacy, marry off all the daughters, and give the business to the son. And that's just something that he said once, OnlyFans gets bought by TikTok. That might be the thing, because while OnlyFans is supposed to be investing in shares of TikTok, if TikTok is being backed by Donald Trump and Elon Musk, OnlyFans might get bought out by TikTok. I still gotta after tonight's show, I still gotta put those videos together and try to post up on this new site that's talking about paying people to post stuff. What's it called? Flickr, Flip, some shit like that. And it's just supposed, like, you post stuff up on a thing allegedly. I talked to you about this a couple days ago, and they're supposed to pay you like as much as like $50 a month or some stuff like that, or $50 whatever over a period of time, and depending on how many views how many videos you post and the viewership rating, that you can make decent money off of it, and you don't even have to have 1 million followers. I was sitting over here thinking, if dollars to ducats, if uploading videos make money off of that platform, that's something to do. Because it's better than selling yourself on social media. But yeah, when it comes down to them over there, like they don't have all those public displays of affection and this, that, and the third. But even with their laws of limiting one birth per family, so their average birth rate was 0.72, one child or less per family. They still had billions of kids, 4 billion. Then they had the generational gap because the women started giving birth later in life. So now the women being mothers at 38, newborns, there's a 30-year, 40-year gap between the last generation and the next generation. Now the average young adult is in their early 20s, and there's a 38 to 40-year gap where the youngest old person is in their 60s. So when they all die out, the next generation will still be in their 30s, creeping into their 40s, not having access to authority over the economy, because in their situation, they do as they're told, even in their 20s, because it's their great granddaddy's money. Who's still alive. So when 2-3 generations die at the same time, and the next generation take over and they inherit all this stuff, they're not going to have the proper guidance to run it all. And that's the biggest concern that Asia has, which is why they're saying, hey, let's do a population boom. So if you're making that good money here in America, where you can afford to fly over to Asia and settle down into one of those countries that'll pay you a little bit of change, you go over there and lock down with one of them females and do the long haul thing. Oh yeah, 2, 3, 5 kids. And if you're getting checks from America and they not tax you on your checks from America, you got 2, 3, 5 kids. You ain't talking to America. What they gonna do? Send you a letter in the mail to Hong Kong and say, hey, you ain't been filing your taxes, boy. Nah, they're not gonna give a fuck what you got going on unless you're making millions of dollars that they can keep track of. If Elon Musk cannot find enough money to come back and cuss you out about, You ain't gonna say nothing. Then if you ever in a situation where they taking 20, 30, 40% out your pocket and you let them keep it, you did before you determine if you're entitled to a return, if they took 20% of your money and you let them keep it, that's it. You did your part. So that was one of the discussions we had on the show, because somebody said, oh, you're required to file taxes. No, you're not. They take the money from you from W-2 and you file to get your money back. You ain't got to file, because if they take the money out your paycheck and you don't file, they keep it. They're not going to challenge you if they took money out your pocket. Now, if you're not paying taxes so that you can hide the fact that you're making big money that you otherwise would write them a check for, that is a problem. They'll come get you for that. If you're claiming that you're not making a bunch of money when you are making a bunch of money, that's lying. That they'll come get you for that. But just not saying nothing until they come knock on your door and ask you about it, nah, that's not really an issue. And with 365 million people in this country, they're not really keeping track of who didn't file. And if you fall into the right category, they're not even going to try to check, because they're going to figure whatever you do got, you need. So they're not going to worry about it. But with that being said, y'all, I really appreciate it. I just realized we tiptoeing into that 1 o'clock phase. I don't really got nothing going on for another hour and a half, but I know that I do want to try to piece everything together, because Mr. Satellite asked me to make him a highlight reel. And when he do pop back in, I'm hoping that I have it for him. He's going to give me $50 for it, allegedly. I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyway because I said I would. Bayside said the only thing that's free anymore is air. Wait, when was air free? 1975, 1984? Because if you think about it, Bayside, if you go to your local Wawa's, it's like $1.25. If you go, you could buy air in a can from AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts for like $22 a bottle. You can go to a medical supply store actually and buy those big green oxygen tanks. There's a $50 to $100 a tank. Hold on now, compressed air. Look, you got the dive shops, and they're selling gigantic tanks as they put on your back, and those are a couple $1,000s a piece. So while they're not charging you regularly for every breath you take, nebulizers, you paying them. They just like they started charging people for cups of water, and then they started putting water in plastic bottles. They're starting to charge for air, putting the bitches into containers, and they're working it into the regular society. You see how the price of gas masks have gone down. The gas mask that has respirators attached to them, they not taxing us outright yet, but you see how quick California needed that damn oxygen. Everybody who wanted fresh air was buying oxygen out the ass over there. So I had to pay for every breath I had on this 2-hour show today, but eventually that's going to be right out there. It's going to be lights, water, gas, oxygen. They're going to be it's going to be one of them bare necessities like cable used to be. It's going to be the new bare necessity like Netflix. It's going to be basically said, no, I'm saying like we get taxed on everything, but it seems like the only thing we're not taxed on is the air we breathe. Now, you right. I'm kidding around with you. You right, but guess where they make their money back on not taxing us for that air? The mandatory medical care that you got to have while you're alive, because they tax you $900 something a year as a penalty for not having health insurance. So they still taxing your ass to live. So they're not taxing you to breathe, but they taxing your ass to live. So you're gonna be sitting over here like, I'll be goddamn. But when you look, okay, so in business, you make more money from indirect sales than direct sales. I could sell you this phone and make a limited quantity of money on selling you this phone. But I could sell you the service to that. I could give you the phone for free, sell you the service to the phone, sell you the insurance on the phone, sell you the accessories to the phone, and make way more money off of that than what I would have made off the phone. Then if you break the phone, I sell you the replacement to the phone, deductible for the insurance claim. So you still paid for the phone 8 times over. But I made money in so many different places and you didn't complain because you got a free phone. They ain't got to charge me on the damn, they ain't got to charge me for every breath I take. But if they charge me $1,000 every time I don't tell them that I've got health insurance, then they just charge me $1,000 to live this year. and think about everything else that we paying for though, because we paying for we got sales tax on everything that we buy. We getting taxed on the money that we make the work. And then we taxed on being healthy. Then they got life insurance, and that's going to be the next thing that's going to be a big thing. And all of this stuff is coming out of you got to pay somebody else to be alive. So they ain't taxing you for your breath. They just taxing you to be alive. Breathe all you want, brother. But if you ever have problems with breathing, I know 5 different places where you can get your breath for a reasonable rate. And while they're not doing shit about pollution right now, at the end of the day, as our environment becomes harder to breathe in, oh, guess where the other place we getting taxed on our breath every breath we take? Bayside. Remember them inhalers? There go your breath right there. Ain't them little bitty inhalers, them little bitty ass inhalers expensive as fuck. We all got beat up lungs. Damn right, we all got beat up lungs. Most people in America smoke weed now, so not too many people got good lungs no more. But that's what we going through right now. Society is changing. Society is changing a lot. Not everything is changing. He said, "Stop it! I have asthma." Well, then you paying for every breath you take. Fuck you, mean? You talking about we ain't paying for every time you take a breath with that inhaler, bro? You sitting up here counting the squirts. It's always 3. It's always 3. It's never just 1. It's always 3. And when that thing starts sounding a little light, you're like, shit, I gotta go get me a refill. And them bitches ain't cheap. You swing around there over there by that damn Walgreens, and they be sitting there talking about some $50 a fucking bottle, and that bottle only gonna last you for a week with how many hits you got to take on that bitch a day, which means you got to go get like 4-5 of them bastards. You're like, do you got a box set that I can get on a discount? Here come the Weezer. Can I go to Sam's Club and get the box set? Let me get like 50 of them with 10% off. That way I ain't got to come back as often. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Between that, the nebulizer, they got the now they have the what they call them things, not hyperventilators. They got the I forgot the name of the environmental control device. Humidifier. That's what it is. They got the dehumidifier and the humidifier and all these other things that they got going on right now to purify the air inside of your house. And it's so much stuff going on where, bro, they make money out of every little thing that go wrong in our lives. So if we can't grit our teeth and bear it, like when we was kids and grandpa used to say, take a salt tablet, it cure everything. We don't got that no more. You be all right, boy. Take a salt tablet. We don't live that life no more. We gonna be paying for every little ache and pain and ouch and every discomfort and every look, man. But at least we can find a way to find happiness if we can bring our families together. And that's what the primary basis of today's show was bringing the family together. Yeah, all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. See, when I'm in my 80s, I'm gonna be either drink the COD liver oil, the cod liver oil. Whoo, shoot. That was bitter. That cod liver oil with some prune juice, cranberry juice. Mix that stuff up. Oof, smelled bad, tastes bad too, but felt great after you got it down. The throat was thick, but it felt great when you got it down. But the thing is, though, we healthy-ish as adults. We have adult life choices that make us feel like shit now. But when we was children, we ain't have all that. We was healthy. We was out there playing in the street, getting hit by cars, getting up, going back out there and doing it all over again, talking about some weed. That was fun. Now today, we could trip over an invisible rock and sprain our ankle and be sitting over here in a wheelchair for a month and a half talking about some he kicked me and wasn't nobody even there. And the fact is that society has gotten so soft to self-sufficiency that it's crazy. Basically, I said, like you said, the moral of the story is keep your kids away from CPS or you might not see them again. Damn straight. With that being said, I'm gonna put a pin in tonight's show. We got some good stuff coming up for y'all tomorrow and Saturday. We know I got our members only show on Sunday. We are live 7 nights a week. We do social discussions, self-improvement, family improvement, relationship improvement Thursday through Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to be talking about, like he said, nah, back hurts. You damn right. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to be talking about ways to make money, spend money, and invest money. So for those of you that's watching us on Twitter, X, make sure that y'all follow the channel. Make sure that y'all hit that like button. For those of you on Twitch, make sure you follow the channel. Make sure that y'all hit that like button. And for the rest of y'all that's watching us on YouTube, if you're already following the channel, follow it some more. Hit that like button. And if you haven't been following the channel, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification button and chase this channel with everything that we cover, because we cover this, that, and everything in between. And usually it's most of the things that's important to the average American. It hits y'all back at home and those people around the world, because the stuff we're going through in America, it happens all over the world. It just hasn't happened in your country yet, or it has, and you're in one of those countries that don't nobody talk about the shit. But here we're gonna talk about it, because in America we got freedom of speech. So even if I can go live from a third world country, I got the freedom to say whatever the fuck I want to say, because my VPN is broadcasting from America. I don't give a fuck. He said, good, Xander, keep rocking on. I definitely will, Bayside. On my way out, I want to say, ladies, thank you. And as long as the situation doesn't make sense, ladies, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, we're right around 75% of the podcast. It's a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective. I really appreciate y'all, because without y'all, the show would not be what it is today. So, special shout out to Bayside, Usman, Mr. Satellite, Mr. Pibbs, Max Poser, his dad, Reese Martinez, Joseph Hernandez. I really appreciate all y'all for coming to the show. Nico, Nikki, Victoria B. I really appreciate y'all for coming to the show and showing us love throughout the year. Thank you guys for coming to this and that. As we roll out of here, any comments that's going through the comment section during the outro will be put up onto the show, as long as they're appropriate. So you'll see them right here, as you've been seeing them all night, even from Twitch and Twitter. So if y'all got something that y'all want to throw out there, special shout out to a friend or a family member, rep your city, your state, your country, you throw it in the comment section, you'll see it right there. Thank you guys for coming to this and that. Again, I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not